Today on The Real Story, there's a lot at stake in 2022. Connecticut voters tasked with choosing Connecticut's top leadership positions in Washington and here in the state. There's a lot riding on state party leaders as they formulate a plan and as candidates begin to emerge. Joining us this morning to talk shop, Connecticut's GOP party chair Ben Proto and the state's Democratic Party chair Nancy DiNardo face off. Plus, tensions continue to rise on the border of Ukraine, alarm bells sounding on a possible Russian invasion, and now another potential international crisis for President Biden to manage. What is on the line? We'll break it down with international relations expert Yvonne Davis, who spent time in the region and in Ukraine. Good morning, and thanks for joining us on The Real Story. I'm Jen Bernstein. Oh boy, do we have a busy year ahead of us for Connecticut politics. 2022 is a major election year here in our state. Connecticut voters will head to the polls in November to cast their vote for the state's House, the Senate, state's constitutional offices, as well as the position of governor, not to mention all 5 of Connecticut's congressional seats on the ballot. And this year, the U.S. Senate seat, now held by U.S. Senator Richard Blumenthal, is also up for grabs. And that means that we've got a very, very busy campaign season ahead of us. We've already seen ads hitting the airwaves with candidate for governor Bob Stefanowski's campaign. And all of this means that the Republican and Democratic Party chairs are deep in the weeds of planning and strategizing. So let's bring them on to see what they're thinking for this year. Joining us this morning, Connecticut's GOP party chair Ben Proto and the state's Democratic Party chair Nancy DiNardo. Thank you both for being here this morning.
Good morning, Jen.
Inviting us.
All right, so first of all, let's level set here with everyone at home. Explain what the party chair does in your respective parties. Ben, I'm going to start with you, just so people at home understand what your role is.
I think the party chair has a couple of roles. Obviously, we are probably the chief fundraiser for the party, as well as the chief cheerleader for the party. It's our job to promote our party, promote our candidates, promote our message, and work to convince voters to join our party, to support our candidates, and to support our message. And oftentimes, and I think Nancy will probably agree with this, it's more about keeping the trains running on time than it is as much political work as people think we might actually do.
Yeah, Nancy, I mean, you all are kind of the cohesiveness of the parties. What do you think is the most difficult part of the job that you're dealing with right now?
Well, I think the most difficult part is to get everybody on the same page. We try and do that, but people often complain that Democrats don't have a unified message, and that I feel is the most important thing. That Democrats have accomplished a lot in the state, not only at the federal level, but at the state level and the municipal level. But it's important that we get everybody talking about what Democrats have accomplished for the people of Connecticut.
And Nancy, I mean, Democrats are at an advantage here in the state just for the fact that they, hold the most offices in Connecticut. So we have Republicans that kind of have to try a little bit harder to get elected to certain positions, certainly in the governor's seat, which they have come close. So, okay, let's talk about the governor's race right now. I'm going to start with you, Nancy. You have an incumbent in that seat, Governor Ned Lamont, who's been handling the pandemic. You all must feel decently confident just because the fact is you have an incumbent and it's hard sometimes to get that person replaced.
Yes, Jennifer, I do agree, but Ned Lamont has done a phenomenal job in being governor for the past 4 years. You talked about the pandemic. Connecticut is first in the nation as far as getting out masks and getting vaccinations, keeping businesses open, and making sure children are safe and able to go to school. Ned Lamont has delivered a balanced budget, and the Republicans had tried to make the governor use the $3.1 billion rainy day fund for it, but Ned did not do that, and he was able to have this large rainy day fund as well as balance the budget. And as a result, Ned has put money towards the pension fund, which has been neglected over the years. And we have the tax cuts for working families. We have the economy moving in the right direction. And there's still more to do with the economy, but I do believe Ned has done a great job and will continue to do that. We have the family medical leave that has been very important to people, tax cuts for the middle class.
Yeah,
So,
he was, Nancy, able to get some things passed that were on his agenda. Marijuana, for example, a number of things, even though we were dealing with this pandemic. Ben, I want to go over to you because the Republican race is certainly going to be, whoever runs on the Republican side, it's going to be interesting, and it's already kind of heating up. You have Bob Stefanowski, who's already kind of out there, out front, spending money, ready to go. We just had him on the show last week. You can tell he's polished. He definitely has his message straight, seems confident. He's got more name recognition than he did even 4 years ago because he certainly, stayed public throughout these 4 years and has spoken out. But we have another candidate who's kind of eyeing potential for run, which is Themis, who is another well-known name in our state. So what are you thinking on your side of things?
I think we have two really good candidates considering, well, one who's in the race in Bob Stefanowski. And I think you're right, Bob has spent the last 4 years working very closely with people across the state of Connecticut, not just Republicans, but Bob was tremendously instrumental when the pandemic hit, when Ned Lamont was unable to find PPEs to deliver masks across this state at his own cost. And it didn't matter what political party you were with. In fact, there were Democrat legislators who were helping handing out the masks that Bob was able to procure to provide masks and PPEs to our nursing homes, where unfortunately the governor sought to have COVID positive patients put into those nursing homes, just as Governor Andrew Cuomo did. And we saw a tremendously high death rate in those nursing homes as a result of that. And again, now the governor is again suggesting, obviously, that we put COVID positive patients into nursing homes, which you thought we would have learned from our last mistake, but unfortunately he hasn't. So I think we have, Bob has been doing this now for 4 years. Themis is well known across the state as the former minority leader. She is well versed in the issues affecting the state of Connecticut. And I think we have two very good candidates to run for the people of the state of Connecticut and to help the people of the state of Connecticut as we move forward.
Ben, the Republican Party, I mean, they have come close to getting that seat, but if you look at the last few election cycles in the gubernatorial race, it's just not close enough. But I mean, even the Stefanowski race this last time, we're talking some, 45,000 vote difference. And then I think back to years ago when it was Tom Foley and Governor Malloy. And, those numbers, I mean, that was razor thin. What was it at one point? Like a little over a 10,000 vote difference?
I think the first race in 2010 was about 6,000 votes.
Okay, yep. So that was when Governor Malloy hadn't been elected yet. But regardless, Republicans have come close, but they just can't get over the hump. So what do you need to do to get that to happen this year?
I think there's a couple of things. One is candidates obviously matter. It doesn't matter which side of the aisle you're on. Candidates are tremendously important, and the candidate who's running is tremendously important. Having said that, having the message and putting together a solid, strong message, not just about what the governor has done wrong, but about what the Republicans will do as we go forward, and a vision for Connecticut, not only for 2023, but for 2033 or 2043, where are we going to take the state in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years? And we know where we've been. We still have yet to recover the jobs that we lost in the 2008 recession in the state of Connecticut. In fact, we're the only state in the country that has not recovered those jobs. We're still 70,000 jobs short, according to a recent story for the jobs we lost at the beginning of the pandemic. Our inflation rate is tremendously high across the country. Our grocery shelves are missing items. People can't get what they need. Gas prices are going through the roof. So there are a number of issues out there, I think, that are tremendously important. And if we look at the races in 2021 across the country, most notably in New Jersey and in Virginia, the issue of parental rights, the parental involvement, parents taking care of their children, making those decisions for their children are going to be tremendously important as we move forward. And I think the party that best articulates those are going to be successful. And we know that the Democrats have unfortunately decided that parents are the enemy and have in fact even referred to them as murderous monsters, is going to play very well for the Republican Party as we move forward in 2022.
Nancy, I can see your face while he's saying that. So I'm sure I want to give you a chance to counter that. And then we're only going to have 2 minutes. I want to talk about the U.S. Senate race, but go ahead, Nancy.
Okay. Yes, Ben does like to exaggerate, particularly on the Republican side. In fact, Stefanowski has done that too. I mean, Stefanowski in his ad talks about having auditors audit every single department in the state. Well, we already have that. In fact, a number of things that Stefanowski has said in his ad, I wondered if he even lived in Connecticut and understands what's going on in Connecticut. But getting back to inflation, inflation isn't just in America, it's all over the world. And Biden is trying to do things to curb inflation, and yet the Republicans refuse to agree with anything that the president has indicated that will make a difference, that will bring articles into the grocery stores and will bring the prices down. But the Republicans don't want that to happen. In fact, Ben and I have been involved in politics. I'm speaking for Ben, but we've been involved, and he said it earlier, that we've been involved in politics a long time. And I've never seen it the way it is today. And I do blame a lot of that on the 4 years with Donald Trump and the continued fostering the big lie that Biden didn't win and that January 6th didn't happen. And that makes a difference. And I think that's why you're seeing so many people who were in the legislature on both sides who were considering not running again. They're not used to this type of politics.
Ben, I'm going to turn it over to you for a second. Your favorite topic, I feel like, is President Donald Trump, because you get asked it a lot. So, you know, if you want to answer or counter what Nancy just said, go ahead, and we have time.
Well, I think it started well before Donald Trump. And Nancy and I go back, as she said, a long time in politics, and we remember a different political discourse that we had in this country and in this state. And I, much like Nancy, I'd like to get back to that. I think it better serves our government, it better serves our people when we have that. So, you know, we can point to Donald Trump and to January 6th, and the reality of the situation is Donald Trump's not president. He's not making decisions. Joe Biden is making the decisions. He's making very bad decisions. He's making very poor decisions. And as a result, the Democrats are going to have to deal with the Biden effect in 2022, much as Republicans had to deal with the Biden or the Trump effect in 2018 and then again in 2020. So I think the people know who the president of the United States is. Do they like Donald Trump? Maybe, maybe not. But at the end of the day, he's not the guy making the decisions that are costing them a lot of money, that are causing their children to continue to have to do what they're doing, to watch jobs go out the window. That's Joe Biden. That's the Democrats. They control every level of government in Washington, just as they control every level of government in the state of Connecticut. And unfortunately, we're just going in the wrong direction. And every poll says the United States is going in the wrong direction. Connecticut is going in the wrong direction. And we have a choice. We can change the people making the decisions, or we can continue to embody the definition of insanity.
Well, the good thing about elections is that voters get to decide and they go to the polls. And of course, we always see these pendulum swings at points, right? With elections going from Republicans to Democrats, Democrats to Republicans. But I really do appreciate both of you agreeing to come on. I should have done the whole show because we could continue to discuss this. But I agree. Let's get back to some productive decorum, because that's what politics is all about. And that's what we strive to do here in Connecticut. So again, appreciate you both coming on and having a good civil discourse, which is also very important for people to see from the party chairs. Ben Proto, Nancy DiNardo, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Nancy.
Yes, thank you, Ben.
All right, coming up on The Real Story, the U.S. trying for diplomacy as the threat of a Russian invasion of Ukraine looms. But what's at stake here for President Biden and the U.S.? We get analysis from international relations expert Yvonne Davis, who spent time in the region. Her take when The Real Story continues.